Because I'm still a good reporter, I did a little background research and a little reporting when I was asked to introduce our honoree tonight. And of course, I searched my own memory. What I discovered is that Kent Babb has always wanted to write, and if given a choice, wanted to write sports. I remember him telling me halfway through senior semester, "I've had it. I don't care about anything. Really, I just want out of here." And I suggested that he go write some stories he was interested in. In fact, from the get-go, that was the way to get Kent going. My colleague Scott Farron remembers it this way. "Kent Babb, I remember Kent as if it was just a few weeks ago," Scott said. "Yep, always wanted to write sports." "How about informational graphics?" "Do not see the point. I like sports," Kent said. "How about photojournalism?" "Nope, don't like this either." He was correct. He rarely got an image in focus. "How about writing?" "Like this, but as long as it was sports." Like many sports writers giving feature stories or general assignment reporting, the copy always seemed to come in late. "How about page design?" "Nope, I like sports." Which turned out to be a good thing, for while Kent is adept at journalism in general and feature writing and reporting in particular, he is always at his best when he's working as a sports writer. When he left Kansas City for Washington, D.C., the Kansas City Chiefs didn't help him pack. But one news report suggested that the team's general manager, Scott Pioli, probably popped a champagne cork at one Arrowhead Drive when he heard that Babb was moving. In January, the 30-year-old journalist had sent shockwaves through the Chiefs' front office when he exposed the team's culture of secrecy and intimidation. His Kansas City Star story, slugged "Arrowhead Anxiety," made national headlines with its tales of micromanagement and sourced allegations of phone tapping. In fact, I feel almost as though the University of South Carolina's School of Journalism and Mass Communications is something of a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to honoring and recognizing this young man's many accomplishments. For Kent Babb has been honored by the Associated Press sports editors 8 times, including first place for feature writing in 2005 and 2010. His work was included in the 2013 edition of the Best American Sports Writing. He also won the Poynter Institute's Van McKenzie Cup in 2009, the Hearst Foundation's Article of the Year in 2005, and placed 3rd in the 2010 National Headliner Awards. So it's with great pleasure and pride, as one of his former professors, that I introduce this South Carolina native son and self-described Huguenot, Kent Babb. We sure are proud of you.
Thank you, Cecile. Thank you guys for having me here. And my wife, Whitney, is here with me tonight. My mother, June. My in-laws, Gray and Linda Seymour, always been very supportive. And would not be here without them and their support. I get emails a lot from young journalists, students a lot of the times, and they often want advice. They want the secrets to how you move up, how to write a good story. And a lot of times they say things like, some of the advice they get a lot of times is, if you're thinking about going into journalism, don't bother. It's dying. It's something that nobody wants to get involved in. It's a good way to waste a future. That disappoints me because that's not the experience I had here. That's not what the professors and the instructors who I dealt with here, like Cecile said, I received nothing but support. It's a little more complicated, I think, than what she described it. But what I tell these young journalists, I tell them a couple of my stories, and I'll share a couple of those with you tonight. When I was a junior here, I was going to law school. It was as simple as that. Journalism is dying. It was more or less dead, in my opinion. And I was going to law school. I see Eric Collins here. I loved that class, and that was part of my reasoning. I absolutely loved how it was taught, and more than anything, I just wanted an escape. And it was a situation where I just knew that this is not the way I wanted to spend my life. You won't find a job, and even if you do find a job, your paycheck won't exactly make you feel like you're earning a living. It's meager. So yeah, law school was my great answer. Then one day, my copy editing instructor, Doug Fisher, called me into his office. Copy editing at the time was one of the hardest classes at USC. Not one of the hardest journalism classes, one of the hardest classes. It was one of the most failed classes here, apart from that infernal self-paced astronomy that everybody had to take. So he called me in after one session. I said, all right, this is going to seal the deal for me. He's going to tell me to quit. He's going to tell me to withdraw. I must be failing. And so it's that bad. This is only about a month into the semester. He pulls me in, and that's fine. I've made my peace. So actually, he brought me in and suggested that I take the Dow Jones internship test. He had seen something in me. He had seen a passion that I didn't really talk about, but it was my work. It was how, I guess, I didn't even realize I was talking about these things. And I took the test, and the next thing I knew, my mom and I were going to lunch here in Columbia, and I got a call from someone at Dow Jones offering me an internship at the Sporting News in St. Louis. So needless to say, I've not thought much about law school since. That put me right on the journalism track. The next year, I spent way too much time in Professor Ernie Wiggins' office, talking about TV, music, movies, real intellectual stuff. And occasionally the talk turned to writing. He would tell me about some of the great ones. He gave me copies of magazines that he had highlighted parts of. And one day he turned around and gave me a copy of the Best American Sports Writing 1997. Inside the front cover was his name, Wiggins, in big letters, and he wrote through it with a highlighter. And I took that home and I studied it. I didn't just read it, I just devoured it. I looked at these, I read these stories, I made notes in the margins. I wanted to be like these greats, these legends, Tom Boswell, Gary Smith, Rick Riley, some people that were heroes of mine. And so he gave me that book, and I just loved it. The point is, these men could have told me to go a different route, an easier route, take something more guaranteed. They could have given me the same advice that other people get. If you're thinking about a career in journalism, don't bother. Instead, they saw passion, they saw something in me that I don't think I said. It was something that I had hidden, I think, and somehow they found this out. And they brought it out, excuse me, they brought it out, and I think that's what great professors do. Great journalists, great people are able to do. They find something that's buried or hidden, even if it's on purpose, and draw it into the sunlight. And so now I tell these young journalists to go for it. Hell yes, go for it. Don't listen to what everybody says. Just go after your goals. Because if you don't love it, you're not going to make it anyway. So you have to love it. And that's the second part of what I tell these guys. And I tell them, too, sometimes grandiose and possibly unrealistic goals happen if you work hard enough. The other day, before I came down here, I looked at my bookshelf at my home outside of Washington, and I pulled down that Best American Sports Writing 1997 from the shelf. Sure it was still in the front corner, Wiggins, as he had written it. The name was still there, the letter's still very visible through the highlighter. The book meant so much to me, and I wouldn't be standing here without it. Before I left, I bought 2 copies of a book published early this month. Last night and today, I gave Doug and Ernie a copy of their own. It was a gift, and at least to me, a symbol. It was the Best American Sports Writing 2013. And because of them, and because of this wonderful journalism school, this one has my name in it. Thank you.